Well, it's time for the Horsham District Football League report to the Chaparrot Rainbow Storm, a giant of a player that he is. Shouldn't use the word giant, I should use the word stormtrooper. It is the big Peter Weir joining me. G'day, Weary, how are you?
Yeah, pretty well, thanks, Wayne. And yeah, good to be reporting a strong win by the JR boys on last weekend.
Well, not just reporting it, but they did it without yourself. I know you had a family commitment, and they just took the bit between the teeth and said, we don't need Big Weary. And I'd heard a bit of a rumour this week that you may have to come back through the twos.
Yeah, I've heard all the gags this week, Flo, man, and yeah, I was a bit nervous come selection last night, but luckily I found myself back in the seniors, albeit not at full forward, so I've got to work my way back into that position after Jay kicked another nice bag of 5 goals on the weekend.
He did. We'll have a look at that in a minute because I want to talk about Pimpernio, and Clint Burdett's gone back there to coach, and I know you know him really well. Great for him to get a win, 17-15 to Taylor's Lake, 5-10.
Yeah, monkey off the back there for the Pimpernio boys, and it's great for them to get their first points of the season. I see a few new names in the better players, and that's really good for Clint to have some new players try and carry the group forward because they have been heavily reliant on 3 or 4 veterans there at Pimpernio for a few years now.
What about this? I was shocked at this score. Narrajua Quantong, 25-20, Natimak 5-13. I mean, that is a 20-goal blitzing.
Yeah, huge second quarter there. They kicked 12 goals after a quite even first quarter. And, yeah, Brock Orville obviously got on the end of a few of those. And it's great to see him return well from a bad knee reconstruction. So he's obviously feeling fit and started his Horsham District campaign with the Narrajua Quantong boys with a bag of 13.
Yeah, it's going to be great when the JR boys meet up with the NQ boys. It's going to be on, that's for sure. Harrow Balmoral, they were on 20 goals, 5 to Kalkee, 9-15. I don't often see a 10-goal flogging happen out at the Kalkee Recreation Reserve.
No, very rare, but you see the Harrow boys, they kick nice and straight, 20 goals, 5. So when their forwards are on, they're always going to be tough to stop, and Kalkee found that out on the weekend. And the Kalkee prime movers were in the better players, but yeah, overall, Harrow boys were just too good.
And they were. The Swifts were too over Canova. The long road trip down to Stall, 16-25 to 6-8. It's a big flogging for the Cougars, and the Swifts showed why at North Park they'll defend that territory very well.
Yeah, Stall always play down there, and they always start their seasons well. And they had Nick Pickering play 300 game for the club, so it's always good to have a good win in a milestone game at the club. So well done to Nick on his 300 games. And
I'll tell you what, the Rapagna boys are up for it, 18-13 to Laharam, 7-3, 6 goals to Krutzenberger and also to Turner. And they haven't really had Braden Iceland have to do anything major. He did play, but they are looking really good.
Yeah, it looks like Brett Irvin must have done a good job on him. But, yeah, they were a bit slow in the first half after the Easter break. But, yeah, they found their feet in the second half and run away with a pretty comfortable victory over the Laharam Demons.
But where it mattered, though, Weary, and it was down at Edenhope, and it was the Storm. 12-9-81 to beat Edenhope Apsley, 11-4-70 in an absolute cliffhanger. What a performance by your blokes to get your first win of the season on the road against a much-improved Saints.
Yeah, big result. It was a huge game for both clubs. And, yeah, Edenhope led all day apart from in that last quarter. Our boys stuck it out as we did against the Rapagna team. And Shane Mazin always leads the way when the game gets tougher. He always gets cleaner, and that's why he's a great player. And Clancy Breen, with his running out on a wing, kept running all day. And our new recruit, Lockie Doon, took a lot of intercept marks apparently just to settle us in those last couple of quarters. And, yeah, a great win against some really good opposition at Edenhope away.
What about Kirkwood? They booted 5 and then Wild with 3. 6 to Butler, and the 2 McIntyre boys coming across from the Boroughs both booted a couple of goals. A big effort up forward by Kirkwood, and he takes that full forward spot away from the big P. Weir. We'll look at that in a moment. But I want to say about your reserves, this was a really good performance. They actually beat Edenhope 8-8 to 7-3 in another good game of footy.
Yeah, another come-from-behind victory. I think Edenhope presented with an older, more experienced side, but as the game wore on, the youthful legs of the Chaparrot Rainbow boys run away with the game, which is a great sign of things to come for the season, and there's some good depth there if we need to bring them up into the senior grades.
Certainly is, and I noted that Lewis Cox, one of your juniors, played up in the 2s, and I hear that he could be in the 1s. That's coming up as we preview the round of matches, but a very, very good young player. Hey, talking about young players, is the kids that Lewis Cox normally plays with got a forfeit from Edenhope, so they get the points there. But what about these young lads in the morning? A bit of a reminder that footy is going to be a long season for these Japarut Rainbow Storm lads in the 14-year-olds.
Yeah, back to earth a little bit for the under-14 boys after rip and win round one. I think from all reports, the Eden Hope team had a few really good midfielders that we just struggled to get a hold of, and they run away with a well-deserved victory. And, the boys will look to bounce back this weekend.
Yeah, not a bad effort. The lads will learn from that, Peter. Let's have a look at the girls, though, in the netball. A couple of wins, and, they're actually on song, the A-grade girls at the Japarut Rainbow Storm.
Yeah, terrific start to the year. They had a really good win against Rapaniat first up and then followed it up again against an improved Eden Hope team who has been noted, recruited a couple of high-quality girls into their team. So well done to the girls on the first two wins, and they'll look to Laharam this weekend, who have been a benchmark of the netball competition in the District League for a lot of years, to really find out where they're at, and the club wishes them well.
Certainly do. Okay, round 3 action in the senior football where it's Harrow, Balmoral and Pimpernel. I'm sorry to say this for Clint Burdett's boys, but it's a tough outing down at Harrow.
Yeah, it's always tough to go down there and beat Harrow, and I think Pimpernel will find it a pretty tough day at the office and look for Harrow to have another good win to kickstart their season. The
Cougars need a win at home. They've got to beat Taylors Lake. It's a long road trip for the Lakers, but the Kaniva-Leor Cougars should win at home.
Yeah, I know it's early to say it, but 0-3 for either of these teams who lose probably makes it hard to make finals, and every team aims to make finals at the start of the year. So look for there to be a bit of heat in the contest. Hamish Bennett did a great job last week against some big school ruckmen, and I think he'll be the difference in the game in the centre for the Kaniva boys, and I think they'll have a win at home.
Swifts get Nadimuck at Nadimuck Showgrounds. Hard one to tip because Nadimuck's performance last week was poor. I'm going for the Swifts.
Yeah, I think you're right, Flo, man. Nadimuck just seem to have those bad and inconsistent quarters, while we're opposite to that, Stawell is such a consistent, reliable team, and I think the 4 quarters of footy that Stawell will play will be enough to overcome the Nadimuck team.
Okay, does Kalki Recreation Reserve have a history where 2 matches were lost by the home side in a row in senior footy? Because that could be the case when Rupp goes across there.
Yeah, it wouldn't have happened too often. I expect this to be a really good game of footy, both free-running sides, and I think both coaches in this game will be happy to see a bit of a shootout and look for some big scores to be kicked out of the midfield. And I think it'll be a tight game, but Rapaniat might just get across the line against the Kalki boys. And
Narrajua Kwantong at home. Edna Bapsley, the opposition. I think it's a moment of truth for the Saints.
Yeah, once again, I think the coaching will come into play a little bit, and the key aspect of that might be Matty Butler, whether he stays forward and kicks another bag of goals, or do they need him to bolster their defence against someone like a Brock Orville. So both coaches down there, Guy Smith and Gareth Owes, are well respected, so look to them to have an influence from the side of the ground. But yeah, I think Narrajua Kwantong might be just a little bit strong with the home ground advantage.
Okay, your matches, down to Cameron Oval at Laharam. It's a good road trip for the Japarut Rainbow folk, particularly the folk up at the northern end at Rainbow. This is a good road trip, a good test too at senior level. We might just start there because you've got a big inclusion in your side.
Yeah, it's great to have Lewis Cox, who's only a 15-year-old debut for the senior group, and it's exciting for the club and for his family and just his friends to see a young bloke like that come into the side, and he'll get his opportunities probably out on a wing or a half-forward flank, so hopefully he plays well on debut. But yeah, it's still a huge game for the club. Laharam boys, it's always tough to go down there and beat them at home, and I think with a bit of wet weather forecast, it could be a bit of a slippery sort of affair down there, and they've got some really good older leader players that they'll be looking to their youth to follow along, and yeah, I'm expecting a tough encounter. It
will be a tough one. You're back in the side, and I know you love that wet weather football, Weary. You'll just enjoy every moment of it. You going to wear the long sleeves?
No, I don't think so. I think I'll prefer it to round one, though, Flo, man, when it was 30 degrees.
Yeah, the old body might like that. The reserves, I reckon they can win this game.
Yeah, I think they'll go down there confident after their win last week, and there's no reason they can't make it 2 in a row.
Oh, right, okay. What about the 17s? No game. Is Laharam likely to field a side at any point?
Oh, we hope they can, and it's an interesting one because our boys have only just got enough numbers to play as well, but just with the 2 forfeits, they've banked 2 wins now, essentially, so it's not too bad getting the points from 2 games without having to get out on the park, Flo, man.
Yeah, it'd be nice to do it. Okay, the kids. What can the kids learn from last week, the 14s, as they take on Laharam? Do you reckon that they might be competitive here?
Oh, they'll probably learn about consistency being a key factor in footy. They had that great win first up, but with football, you've got to show up every weekend, and the boys will soon learn that. And I think looking at Laharam's score last week, they only just got over the line against Rapanya, who our boys had a good win against. So look for the under-14s to bounce back and kickstart the day down at Laharam with a win for the Jafar Rainbow Storm boys.
Oh, that's a big call, because it would mean you'd win all 4 grades at Laharam. That wouldn't have been easy to do for the Storm previously. And then the netball A-grade side, can they do it and get 3 in a row? A big weekend for the Jafar Rainbow Storm, for Weir to be back, and also the fact that we're right into it now. It is round 4 action. It is round 3 action of Horsham District football. Thanks, Big Weary.
No worries, mate.